Hey, it's Caleb here at homeschool-curriculum.org. Today's topic is help. My child doesn't want to homeschool. This parent writes in, how do you make it fun and how do you make it interesting enough to keep their attention? Well, let's just think about that. You're sitting at homeschool and you're trying to work through a subject area. It could be anything. It could be math. It could be reading. It could be a science project. It could be an adventure. It could be history. And the child just says, I don't want to do this. This isn't interesting. I'm bored. It's not too different from the rest of our parenting, is it? When we say, hey, what are you doing today? Well, there's nothing to do. They're surfing the refrigerator. They're surfing the internet. They just can't figure out what to do on their own time. Yet with homeschooling, we can encounter it a lot more often because we're with our children all the time. So when our child can't figure out or doesn't like what they're doing, it's on us to figure out how to change what we're doing to make it more appealing to our child. Now, one of the ways you can do that, let's take reading for example, is switch it up. Let's switch up the books that you're getting into and have your child take more of a choice in choosing what it is they're after. That might mean a trip to the library. It might mean making the books a little bit simpler because you might have stretched too far ahead and the child's working too hard to do that. Same thing in the area of writing. If your child's writing for too long, then maybe it's time to take a break and switch it up to something else. With math, it's a matter of figuring out the relevance to what your child's doing. And that can be from telling time, it can be to counting allowance if your child has one. It could be just figuring out, what do we need to do to make the estimates to make this happen? How many cups do we need to add to make this recipe work? Do we have enough flour? Or it's just a matter of putting the problems in the context they can understand. Because chances are, if the problems are too difficult, then they're not ready for them anyways because there's no match to what they're doing. A third area might take science or history. Those can be great ways to make reading and math and writing more interesting because they're actually working with something that tells a story in history, or in science we solve a problem and there's an outcome and we can put our hands on it and really latch into it. So those are some ways that you can do this. A third thing, though, to take in mind is that you might be working too far in advance of your child. And it's okay to lighten up and take a break. That's the beauty of homeschooling. We have this flexibility. We have this, this time that we can just rearrange what we're doing and just say, well, let's just put that down for now and go do something that's more interesting. And then lastly, you need to consider that maybe it's just time to say to your child, look, you're going to have to eat your peas here. It's just a matter of, we've got to do this part. It might be a requirement from the school or maybe a requirement that you have. And it's no different than the chores that we have to get done as well. Look, I've got to do this work. You have to do a little bit of your work, and this is what we're going to work through. We discuss all of this and more in my course, the 3-Hour School Day. There's a link to it right below this video. If you are interested, check it out. It could really help. But for now, just think about how you can help your child by just figuring out the relevance, making sure that that learning is appropriate for their level. And then lastly, if you've got to play the parent card, play that card because, after all, they're our children. Until the next time, it's Caleb at homeschool-curriculum.org. Take care.